go. We are live. Hi, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Welcome. We're back on the Hohner YouTube channel. This is the Hohner Live interview series. Really looking forward to today and the conversation. This is our first conversation. Please welcome with me. I want to see a lot of clapping hands in the chat. Ross Garren from LA. Thank you for taking the time to join us.
Hey, man, thanks for having me. I'm flattered you thought of me and really enjoying connecting with you, and hope some people are tuning in and having some fun with us.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I think you're like the first interview partner sitting in the car, and guess that's exciting for people.
Well, it wasn't a style choice. I wish it were. My wife and I are just moving. We don't have internet at the moment, and don't seem to have the bandwidth in the house to really do video streaming very well. Although, interestingly, 30 feet away from the house in my driveway here, I seem to be just fine.
Very good connection, yeah. Awesome. People are tuning in from Poland, from Sweden, from Iran. That's wonderful. Please feel free to ask like any questions for Ross in the chat, and I'm gonna just forward them. If you haven't heard about Ross yet, as many people on the stream, he lives, eats, and breathes music. Not only plays all different types of harmonica, but also work with many notable artists as a keyboardist, composer, and record producer. And like checking out some of your stuff or like checking out your online presence. I just love the wonderful harmonica soundscapes on the Bon Iver song. Maybe you remember that.
Say that one more time. Sorry, it got a little weird with the connection.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know which sentence was the last one you still heard, but I was just like telling you about the online stuff that I checked out, and that I really love the wonderful harmonica soundscapes on the Bon Iver song.
Oh man, that was a great experience for me. I've only sort of gotten to travel somewhere and hang out for a week and work on somebody's record a handful of times, and that was a really wonderful experience working on that album. We did it. I got to be part of sort of a small woodwind ensemble. So there were a handful of us there at his home, his residence and studio. I mean, his home was basically just a giant studio with some beds.
Yeah.
And a great arranger, Rob Moose, and some phenomenal players. And very creative, open-minded, really heartwarming and delightful, decadent experience. So yeah, Rob wrote a lot of great arrangements for the small ensemble, and on some pieces, we got to sort of experiment with different textures, and I think, some of the players got little solo moments here and there. And yeah, I'm not sure exactly what you're referring to, but probably the one track that he sort of featured, like front and center lead harmonica type stuff, was a track with Bruce Hornsby and Moses Sumney. And that was awesome because Bruce Hornsby is one of my favorite guys growing up. I absolutely loved his piano playing. I've seen him live. He's kind of one of my favorite guys, probably in my kind of late teens, early 20s, just sort of for combining sophisticated, intricate musicianship in sort of an accessible format. And just, I mean, I haven't heard anybody any better at harmony than Bruce Hornsby. So getting to work on that track, Bon Iver, Justin is a genius, a real brilliant master of the very idiosyncratic craft and skill set that goes into making his music. I'm not sure if there's anybody else quite like him, and he is a total master. And yeah, we had a great time. A lot of bass harmonica. If people listen closely on that record, which you would kind of have to do. And there's also clarinet and bass clarinet, which kind of, I suppose, timbrally can be a little bit similar. But if you listen real closely, there's a pretty good amount of bass harmonica on that album as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I just wanted to ask, like, on that song, you meant like how many different types of harmonicas did you use there? Like, probably all of them, like.
Yeah, I think on that session, I mean, for me, I pretty much played the chromatic, the diatonic, and the bass harmonica. I mean, I do on occasion. I actually had some sessions recently on a really, really big time film score where they actually requested chord harmonica, and I think
I see, yeah.
that bass never happens. Yeah. I did a score recently. Robbie Robertson was the composer, and upcoming Martin Scorsese film. Really high level production, and he requested a Harmonicats sound world and wanted the chord bass and wanted that ensemble sound. And I think that's about the first time anybody has ever.
That's crazy, I believe, yeah.
So I would say I don't really play those instruments, but the chord and harmonetta, but I get it together if I get some notice to kind of prepare a little bit. So basically I played, I don't know, mess around with some of the other ones too, polyphonia and tremolo, but really just bass, chromatic, and diatonic. And I think on the Bon Iver album, that was all I played. We did most of that recording live with the ensemble in one room. So that one track with Bruce Hornsby was kind of just me by myself. And Justin ran a number of passes sort of with the idea of creating textures that could be layered against each other. And I think that was probably mostly just diatonic harmonicas layered. But the rest of that record, pretty much the way Rob arranged the written parts were for like one live ensemble to perform in one take, and that's kind of how we did it. And I would say mostly bass harmonica with some diatonic and chromatic parts. I would say for me, I'm not at your level of being able to get anything I want out of the diatonic harmonica. So I would say for the most part, I go with the chromatic when I'm reading music, especially in a live setting where, where you can't mess up too much because you're all in one room and you're not isolated. So there might have been some diatonic.
Yeah, there's no time to like, oh no, I gotta use a different harmonica. Oh, you know what? I have to play an overbow there. We can't do that. Give me a second. I got to figure out which harmonica to use. Like, there's no time in the studio for that, right? So.
Well, also the transposing part, like if it's a simple diet, I don't practice it, I don't practice transposing. I hardly practice reading, which generally for the kind of music I'm working on generally has not been a problem. But, if it's a simple melody in any key, that's probably going to be fine for me to just read it down on the diatonic. But if it starts getting like highly chromatic and weird, and I'm not on a C harmonica or like one of the two keys where I like look at the note on the staff and I'm like, okay, that one's 4 blow or whatever.
Yeah.
If I'm on a further removed key, and they don't have a transposed part for me, I probably would lean on the chromatic,
Yeah, that makes sense. Man, I should also get into the harmonetta and just get one and play it.
That's actually a cool instrument, man. I found that later on, I got into one of the guys that kind of mentored me, a great harmonic player named Chuck Fendel. Like when I was in middle school, a kid, he was, I guess, probably in his early 80s, and he came out of the San Jose harmonica clubs. Sharp Harp, I think was the name of it. Could be wrong, but he was a great arranger. I think worked with Sammy Davis and a variety of really pro, he was not a professional musician, or at least to my knowledge wasn't for most of his career, but I think maybe in the Army he was. And at very least a very high level guy, and arranger. And anyway, early on he got me into the bass harmonica and chord harmonica, and so I always had one ever since I was a kid, but the harmonetta came a lot later. And that thing is a great instrument. I mean, you play the same notes, blow and draw. So you don't get into the weird stuff of having to like change breath so you don't pass out and have a different chord by accident. And the unfortunate part is they seem to be very, very difficult to maintain and very hard to find somebody, well, unless you were, which I'm not, willing to kind of get in there and figure it out. So I've sort of had I don't know, I've wanted to get better at it, but it's always felt like a mistake to get too dependent on it because it'd be hard to replace. But it's a great instrument, really cool.
Yeah. I'm going to look on eBay.
The sound comes out the bottom and the bottom. The sound comes out the top and the bottom, so it's also a pain to get volume out of live.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because if you get up on a normal mic in a stand, which is normally what I would do, one direction of air will be right into the mic and the other will be French horn style away from it. So you kind of, I guess guys who are super serious about it have, 2 mics set up, and I haven't done that, but.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's great. So you brought some harmonicas with you.
I did it.
Did you get some different ones, or did you just get a chromatic?
You know what? If people out there are harmonica nerds, which I have to assume they are if they're on this particular, I would maybe show people an instrument that has meant a lot to me, that was modified by Brendan Power, and it's really sort of changed the game for me, which is just the bass harmonica but with a slider attachment. And he made maybe, I think he told me he made something like 20 of these, or he made very few of them, and it totally has changed the game for me. Got this guy, and then Dror Adler made a microphone that clips onto the back, and I have to say it is really been a game changer for me. I've gotten a lot of wonderful work on it, and the microphone and the instrument both work really well. This mic I had to have custom made by him because I initially tried using the mics that I think Huang or Suzuki have made for their orchestral harmonicas, and they really just didn't. I mean, it's a Suzuki. Well, I guess I probably worn off the name, but Suzuki bass.
That's not a problem for the Hohner live stream.
Yeah, well, you could get it on. Actually, to be honest, I learned my bass harmonica when I was a kid was a Huang. Which is I probably got because it was the most economical. And the reason I liked it is the note layout was D flat on the top, C on the bottom, which is the same as the Suzuki, which is why I went with that instead of the Hohner, where it's sort of G flat on the top and C on the bottom.
Okay, I didn't even know about that. Yeah.
Yeah, they have, basically, so on mine, every time you switch from bottom to top deck, you're going up a half step, like pressing the button.
Makes way more sense for me.
Yeah, and on the Hohner, that was basically true, but one, when you got to a B, I think, somewhere around there, it's G flat scale and a C scale. So there's one where you press the button and it's the same, before I could press the button, when I switched decks, it was the same note, and I just wasn't used to it, having grown up playing the Huang. I think Hohner, my understanding, is a very logical way to do it. They did it that way so you could play root fifth in any key without having to switch decks, which is a really practical way to do the note layout, but kind of like blew my little chromatic lizard brain that one of them didn't go up a half step. So yeah, so this is the bass harmonica, and with the button, you know, and it's great, man. This thing, the button makes it totally playable. And oh yeah, I was gonna say that mic that Drawer made was a huge improvement over the ones that were commercially available, because I believe those mics were I want to say they were omnidirectional. They picked up a lot of what was going on that way, not just this way. So I originally bought that thing. I was going on tour with a really great artist, one of my favorites, actually. He was another one, like Bruce Hornsby, was one of my favorite guys in my late teens, early 20s, Ben Folds. And I felt really, really lucky to tour with him, do a number of tours with him. Supposed to work on his record coming up here in a month or so, and felt really lucky to have that opportunity. And he really liked bass harmonica, and he wanted to tour playing large venues, you know, like I want to say they were kind of like 5 to 15,000 outdoor loud places, 5 to 15,000 seating places with drums. So you really had to get some volume out of the bass harmonica, which is a pretty quiet instrument. You know, I've got a drummer there playing and pretty loud stage sound, and those mics just didn't do it for me. They were getting too much of what would come out of the monitors, and even when I was on in-ears, Ben likes to not use in-ears, so there's a certain amount of stage sound happening, and then the drums are nearby, and but this mic that Drawer made really kind of changed the game for me and totally works. You know, before I went on a tour just playing out of a 58 on a bass harp, which totally worked, but it's kind of annoying. You really have to you know, move the instrument and keep it right there. But this thing works great, and it gets a good volume, and I've been very pleased with it.
Yeah. So I did see that many times, like especially at these harmonica festivals in Asia, with the harmonica quartets and orchestras, like playing the chord harmonica like in front of a stand, you know?
Yeah, that's got to be really hard. Have you ever tried that?
No, never. But yeah, I should. I'm definitely getting excited to try out a chord harmonica or a bass harmonica now. Yeah, people in the chat are writing like, unfortunately, like the sound cut out when you play harmonica, but you're on your phone, right?
I am on my phone, yeah.
Oh yeah, I don't know if there's like a setting of like deactivating the noise suppression or something.
Let's see, meeting settings, would that be, do you think?
If there are like any audio settings available, there could be the option to do that.
Let's see. You know, I see meeting settings. Let me try that. Closed. I don't see that. I feel like what this means is we're going to have to do this again sometime. Once I'm set up.
Yeah, it's just like as soon as you play a lot of harmonica, then like Zoom just interprets it as like background noise, and it's like not all of it is like.
Oh man! Oh, story of our lives, right?
Harmonica is background noise.
Yes, yeah. Zoom gives it the thumbs down. So my talking is totally good.
Yeah, your talking is perfectly fine.
And Zoom hates the harmonica. Amazing.
Yeah.
Let's see. That cuts out?
Yeah, it's just like, it's a little weird, but it was better than before, actually.
All right. Well, we'll have to do this again with better settings on my end. Sorry about that, everybody who's watching.
But yeah, just for the music.
Well, I apologize.
I'm not sure if there's like a setting on the phone. I could try to tag too.
I'm looking at yeah, I see meeting settings, and I can touch up my appearance. That seems like something I should probably do, but I won't. Close captioning, show name, show self, stop incoming. I don't see anything that says like turn off noise suppression there or something like that.
I'm just gonna try to join the meeting myself on my phone and see if I can find a setting myself.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Well, you are way beyond me in the Zoom world and many other worlds, I'm sure. So I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, there's like no option of like setting anything. Okay. Yeah, we just gotta roll with it.
All right. I'm sorry, man. That's my shortcoming here.
Maybe it's just the bass harmonica. Can you try to play some chromatic for us?
Let's see.
Maybe Zoom likes that a little better.
Yeah. Let's see about that. Does that work?
Diatonic's way better. Yeah.
Wow. Zoom hates bass harmonica. Well, that's all right. That's all right. Bass harmonica, sadly, seems to be a nearly extinct instrument, and I guess Zoom is perpetuating that.
So you're like really not only a harmonica player, but also playing keyboard and like you're arranging. Like how? What would you say? Like what are the percentages right now in your life? Like what are you doing the most? And
yeah, it kind of seems to change a lot. It seems like every couple years I kind of go through a period where I'm sort of working with certain people in a certain way more often, or I'm not exactly sure how it works. Maybe there's a couple good movie scores and people are thinking of me a little bit more for a while, and I do more of that. Obviously touring with Ben Folds would just be months on end of just playing harmonica. But I haven't found too many touring gigs that have come my way that were harmonica related. So Ben was kind of one, going out for a number of dates coming up here in mid-April with a really great singer-songwriter named Mark Cohn. A really great, he's particularly known for a song called Walkin' in Memphis. I think in the early 90s. He's great. He has a killer band. And I've played with him here and there, but other than that, I haven't had a lot of touring work as a harmonica player. So it just kind of comes and goes, I guess. I would say certainly during the pandemic, my harmonica playing kind of went down the tubes, I suppose. I was sort of going session to session. I still had sessions here and there, either from home or sometimes live. But basically, all of the sort of kind of local gigs or maybe little tours that I have done or had been doing, pretty much all disappeared. And so I would say in years past, I probably played locally fairly regularly and would do kind of out of town corporate events or maybe some tiny little tours, or on occasion would get something, like with Ben. And then would kind of fill in the rest of my schedule, trying to work on people's records in whatever capacity I could. I guess I found that I have met a lot of people through playing harmonica, but when it came to actually working on their record or maybe producing it, oftentimes the harmonica would sort of fall by the wayside. It might have been a way that initially somebody was interested in working with me, but then once we started getting into producing their record, then I'm probably spending, and same with production music or the scoring I've done a lot of music for music libraries and film scores and TV shows and things like that. I would say a lot of the time I pretty much spend most of my time behind a computer doing that kind of music, and working on people's records. I would say the keyboard, I feel like, especially in LA, there are so many great keyboard players that I don't feel like it wouldn't be hard to get somebody who could, play circles around me. And, for working on certain types of music, you don't really need to have the elite players. You need to have somebody who can come up with good parts and have good sounds and can work efficiently. And I haven't really found, I haven't found myself lacking in that way. But as a result, I think when working on people's records, you can spend like all day on keyboards, layering parts and just to fill out the music in the way the artist may envision, the organ pads at the bridge or whatever. You can kind of go all day. And harmonica, I've found typically somebody might want a feature on a song or two. We want a really featured harmonica part on this song.
Right, yeah.
And maybe some textures here and there, but generally it's a much smaller role than keyboard. Even if you're a keyboard player like me, I consider myself a professional keyboard player, but I'm not, I'm not a name player, and I'm not the most fancy guy you could get. I would say it's easier for me to spend a lot more time behind the keyboards on somebody's record than it is on on harmonica. So yeah, it comes and goes. I did work full time as a film composer for a while. And at that point in time, very little harmonica. I was lucky enough to get to score a series on Sun Records where we used a lot of harmonica. It was called the $1 Million Quartet, and it was a really cool project. We were sort of doing, it was the story of Jerry Lee Lewis and Elvis and, that era of Sun Records. And there was a lot of harmonica on that score, and I wrote a good portion of it. But I would say that was kind of unique in the writing gigs that I've gotten. Most of the time it's behind the computer, working on software behind a MIDI keyboard kind of experience. So
yeah,
that's a hard question for me to answer. It kind of comes and goes. The harmonica is really important to me, but I'm not really sure what the percentages would be. Probably on a month-to-month basis. How about you?
Yeah, that's interesting. But I suppose the keyboard was your first instrument then.
Probably. I'm not sure. When I was a kid,
Okay.
I played a lot of different instruments, and we had a piano in the house. And I think I went to a school where we, first graders played violin. You didn't have to play violin in the rest of your time there, but for whatever reason, this is a recollection I'm having. So it's possible that violin was my first instrument, other than kind of noodling around on the piano in the house.
Okay.
How
Yeah, I
about
see.
you?
But I also started out playing the piano first. Yeah. So maybe started with maybe at the age of 5 already.
Right.
Just basic stuff, classically trained. I got some lessons from my mother in the beginning, actually. I was being paid for the first lessons. And yeah, but kind of didn't like practicing piano. I had a teacher and I didn't really like her,
Right.
But yeah, there was a piano class event at some point, and there were like some duos too, and a clarinet player. So I liked the sound of the clarinet and started to play the clarinet after playing the flute like every child in Germany. And I kind of liked that, and I was a pretty good player too, I suppose. But I just didn't practice.
Right.
So like just like, like right before the lesson, like for 10 minutes, and then I was good to go.
Yeah, right.
And when I was about 13, I saw some guy playing harmonica on TV, and got my first harmonica and started to work with the instrument just autodidactically. And yeah, like the clarinet thing, like it was over very soon. So as we started to like get into jazz actually on the clarinet, which I wasn't really conscious about, and we started to improvise, I just like grabbed my harmonica for the improvisation, and the teacher knew it was over,
I love it. Yeah. That you just took right to it.
And now it's like, it also depends, like I'm sometimes playing a lot of harmonica. Sometimes I got to practice a lot for like classical pieces. Sometimes I just give harmonica lessons, and the remaining time I'm also producing. Yeah.
Yeah, right. I guess I was kind of similar to where I did play those other instruments growing up, but yeah, when I got to the harmonica, I really took to it. I really, I don't know what it is about the instrument. I've hypothesized that I tend to overthink things, and with the harmonica, it's really difficult for me to overthink things because you can't see what these great guys are doing. It just kind of looks like it just looks like they have their hands over their mouth. You can't see what's happening. You can't overthink about, much, I guess, other than what their hands look like and their posture. Other than that, you're kind of left to your own devices to try to figure it out. And I think that really counterintuitively worked really well for me. And I love the type of music that I'm not sure how it happened, but my mom, I guess, is kind of a big, I don't know, she really loved certain music, but she didn't have like unusual tastes. She really liked Aretha Franklin. I don't think she knew that much obscure music. She did know who Thelonious Monk was and some music, and Muddy Waters. She knew who those people were, but I don't know that she ever had their records or listened to them. She wasn't a musician. But somehow when she got me a harmonica, she got me Hoodoo Man Blues, the Junior Wells record, which is like as good a record as has ever been made on, in that era on harmonica. And she got me Room to Move by John Mayall, which, John Mayall, I'm not sure how he's regarded in the harmonica community. He's not one of my favorite players in particular. I haven't really listened to him that much, but that album is insane. It is so good. And it's like, it's a really special album, and his playing and the vibe is amazing. And I had these two records as a kid, and I don't know, man. I just got really excited about it, and I have to credit my mom. I'm not totally sure how she did it. I think Room to Move she knew because her brother, my Uncle Kip, was into harmonica in the 60s, and he had that album, and she could remember him playing that song, Room to Move, from that album. Junior Wells might have just been a recommendation from the guy at the CD store or something, or maybe she got me a book too, and it had a picture of him in there somewhere, and we might have just picked it randomly. But either way, I just heard like the best stuff from the get-go, and it got me super fired up, and I took to it a lot more readily than those other instruments.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it also just like feels so good to play the instrument. Like you get so much response, kind of, and just the expression part of it. Because like thinking about like my times of playing clarinet, I was just playing what's written on the sheet, you know.
Yeah,
And
right.
only later, like after playing harmonica for like 3 years or something, I grabbed the clarinet again, and then I was just fooling around, and then I discovered different ways of like producing vibrato. Nobody ever taught me, you know,
Right.
which is
Right.
crazy.
Right. And that was a revelation. That was a revelation that nobody had to teach you that you could just figure it out.
Exactly.
I think I also got lucky that I think in the time that I grew up, we didn't live in an area that had professional harmonica players, but we lived very close to, we lived like in an area that a lot of great guys would tour through all the time. So when I was probably in high school, just at our local bar or local clubs, you know, that, I mean, maybe somebody like Kim Wilson wouldn't have played there, but he would play at like a festival in the area. But, you know, I got to see, man, so many great players. Carrie Bell, Norton Buffalo, you know, who kind of passed not too long into my excitement about harmonica. But Carrie Bell, Norton Buffalo, got to see Paul DeLay a couple times. Mark Hummel would come through real regularly. RJ Misha would come through regularly. Got to see Cotton and Musselwhite, and I'm trying to think.
Yeah,
Rick
that's wonderful.
Estrin, James
Just like experiencing a lot of live music, it's like so worth a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess just in that era, that was still so. Like when I was in middle school and high school, we're talking about like late '90s, early 2000s. That was, I guess, a time that those guys were still, you know, apt and able to play 300 nights a year or whatever, you know, they used to do. I get the impression now it's a small fraction of that, but, you know, going to see the Paul DeLay band or, you know, RJ Misha band, you know, it was a small town at that time. We had relocated from Maryland, a rural area of Maryland, to Monterey, California. And there, you know what, there were some killers in the local area too, like maybe not Monterey, but Andy Just, Little John Chrisley, who does not get enough credit, maybe because he didn't make a lot of records, but Little John Chrisley was as good as anybody I've ever heard. And he would cruise through the local clubs from Santa Cruz. And, you know, guys like, I guess, Mark Ford and, you know, a handful of, you know, more local. I don't want to call those guys local because they're world class. Yeah. But at least at that time, I'm not sure outside of, you know, that area of California, how frequently you could see Andy Just or Little John Chrisley, you know, and they were just, I mean, yeah. And I wasn't seeing them on like, I was just seeing them with their band. You could see them for 3 hours. They'd let me in. I remember I was always so excited about Paul DeLay in particularly. I don't know what it is about him. Probably just that he's a mad genius. I guess it's pretty clear when I listened to his music what it was that was exciting to me about him. But at the time, I didn't really know. But, you know, I wasn't allowed to, I don't know why, but you were allowed to watch the show as a kid on the inside. But on break time, I had to go outside. I don't know why that was. I'm not sure like what the legal reason that I had to be outside during break time.
Man, yeah, I remember visiting New York. I mean, quite a few years ago now. But I was visiting a harmonica player there, and we went to like Terror Blues and wanted to see Dennis Grünling live. But at that point, I wasn't allowed to get in. I was like underage, like I wasn't 21 at that point.
Yeah, and you know what, this one place that I would see like Paul DeLay and Mark Hummel and RJ Misho and maybe a handful of other guys, I guess they served food. So it was like over 21 or 18 or whatever, but while the kitchen was open, I don't remember. I was allowed to be there, but for some reason when the band would go on break, I had to go outside. I don't know. It's really kind of odd when I think about it. But it was a good area. I got to see Toots a couple times, which was really great. And like I said, that's guy Chuck Fendel, and another guy in the local area, Pete Grissom was a really accomplished player who really took me under his wing, and showed me a lot about, you know, kind of more obscure stuff. You know, he had every Big Walter and every George Smith record. He knew what gear they had. You know, he knew all of the William Clark and Rod Piazza and that sort of Gary Primich, all of that, Lee McBee. The list kind of can go on and on. He knew it all. Sam Myers, Mojo Buford. He had that stuff all really really knew all of it, and was really sweet to me. And then, you know, eventually I think kicked me on to David Barrett, who didn't live exactly in my local area, but he lived maybe 40 minutes away. And my dad took me up for lessons with him. And that really, you know, I learned so much from him. I feel like I still could learn so much from him. And so I got lucky. That was the other thing. I got lucky to grow up in that area where those kind of guys were still coming through a lot, and where there were really nice older people like Chuck and Pete who really kind of could teach me some stuff and show me a lot of, you know, because harmonica information was pretty hard to come by. That was sort of before YouTube and stuff like that. So, you know, it's definitely a little more challenging to find resources. And then Dave is a brilliant scholar of all things blues harmonica, and I really
one of the best teachers. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Let's go through some of the questions in the chat real quick, maybe.
Yeah, please.
So Boaz is asking, or is writing, awesome. Wow, that's amazing. You could see all of these great players live, including Norton Buffalo. Are there any new skills you're focusing on for the harmonicas?
Yeah, you know, I guess there kind of are. Like I said, with for me, at the moment, not a lot of live playing happening, and I'm kind of going project by project. So you know, when something's coming up, I'll try to prepare for it. And I am probably should not admit this, but I do not have a daily practice experience happening in my life for the last couple of years. It's just not happening. But kind of two things that come to mind to respond to him, and he's a friend, and I'm glad to hear he's tuned in. I just finished up, got it mastered, about a 90-minute collection of music that I'm thinking of as sort of a harmonica record. I've wanted to make one forever, and this is, I was very lucky that a wonderful patron of the arts and music in particular, Kirk Passage, was up for supporting the creation of this album. And that was a big growing experience for me. I wouldn't say I practiced a lot of harmonica or worked on a lot of playing, but trying to figure out how to make music that could be somewhat harmonica forward and feel right to me, you know, was a big challenge. And so I would say that we went, and when I say we, I mean me, and I had two collaborators in particular. My partner in a band called the Magnetic Vines. So Eric Myron is that partner, and an engineer that I've worked with a lot over the years, Keith Armstrong, trying to find ways to take the harmonica and not, I don't know, make something authentic and unique to me that goes beyond just the harmonica playing.
Yeah.
And so
and there's also so much stuff that you learn, like, besides like actually like practicing or wood chatting, whatever, like just like making music or being on stage. There's like stuff you can learn on your own, you know?
Yeah, I think one of the things is I found that a lot of the music I really like listening to is generally not music where I'm thinking about how impressive the player is, or maybe, you know, it reached a certain level of skill on the instrument where and you know, I don't consider myself some sort of top virtuoso or technician on the instrument. And as a general rule, that's not my favorite music to listen to. But I would say a lot of the stuff I'm trying to play is not super hard. What's hard for me is trying to come up with stuff that I'm happy that I played when it was done. You know, there's a lot less of like, oh man, if I could really play that a lot faster, I'd be a lot happier. That doesn't happen to me nearly as much as I could think of something really cool to play, and I didn't. I played something kind of, you know, stock or just not that interesting, you know. And so with that album, we really kind of pushed the harmonica into a lot of sound worlds I hadn't got to explore, trying to figure out how to, you know, when I think one of the challenges is that I think harmonica is fairly underexplored in that if you bought a keyboard player's record, maybe say even Herbie Hancock in the 70s or something, if you got Headhunters, there's like some crazy sounds that don't sound like a piano. I don't know. I haven't listened to that record in a little while, but I'm pretty sure there's like no piano on that record at all. So like keyboards, synths, you know, clavinets, there's like a lot of stuff that when we listen as an audience to that, we think, oh, that's killer Herbie keyboard stuff. And we don't think, oh, he didn't make a piano record. There's no piano. I can't hear any piano. We don't really think that way. And I think like that's the same for a lot of my favorite guitar players, keyboard players. You know, I listen to Bill Frisell or somebody like that. And there's all these killer textures and sounds that are coming out of the guitar that do not sound like an individual sitting at an acoustic guitar. And, you know, they're using it far more. And with harmonica, I think that's a really foreign sound. Yeah. You know, and so kind of just mentally grappling with, you know, trying to make music I was stoked on and, you know, figuring out how to integrate some of the things I've enjoyed in recent years, modular synth sounds, wild effects, you know, all these sorts of things. And trying to
that's what I also wanted to ask you about, like some maybe nice guitar pedals that you came along that you like to experiment with, or like what you like to do with the harmonica, like in post-production.
Yeah, I will get back to that one second, but to Boaz's question, I don't know if I'm allowed to show this or not, but the other thing that's been on the back of my mind, I showed the Brendan Bauer bass harmonica. Brendan has hooked me up with a new instrument that's kind of the thing that as I have time to work on, I will be working on more.
Okay.
Because for
oh, I hope you're not leaving us right now. Let's see. Maybe. My connection seems to be fine still. So this is the perfect moment to announce the next Twitch Harmonica Challenge. It's going down on April 24th at 6 p.m. Central European Summer Time, together with Igor Kasuya from Brazil. You know him already from the Hohner Live. It's going to be a Latin Harmonica Challenge. We still got to think about the prizes though. But I'll let you know. And I'm sure that Ross will return very soon. Let me go over change scenes. There we go. Yeah. I think he has the link, so he will join us again. Some of the other questions, yeah, I like the question about the amplified harmonica playing. I definitely want to get back into using some guitar pedals. And now I'm very excited about maybe, yeah, shooting for a harmonetta on eBay or something. Gotta be lucky, right? Is there anyone out there who does play a harmonetta? Let me know. Have you ever made harmonica samples for MIDI or anything? Oh yeah, that's a nice question too. We're gonna get to all of these. playing harmonica in front of a computer. Yeah, that's also like my thought. What about harmonica processing, like in post-production, you know? Definitely an interesting topic. Just recorded some harmonica, working on some music with Mariano Marsolo, the fantastic harmonica player from Argentina, and yeah, definitely a hero in the gypsy harmonica world. Just recorded a song, like the Kenny Burrell song Shitlands, which is a nice little blues playing in third position. And Ross is joining us again. Let's see. Oh yes, Boaz, I'm
Hey, sorry about that. My phone overheated.
Zoom. Oh, the phone overheated. That's crazy.
Yeah, I guess being in the car, I'm not sure.
Oh, it's so weird too. Like Zoom tells me right now that we have like 10 minutes left, but that's just because I joined with my phone at some point for a few seconds, you know? There's that limit as soon as you have like more than 2 people in a Zoom call.
Well, shoot. Well, I guess I'll quickly show this thing, and then so Brendan made me a diatonic harmonica that I've always, like, since I found out about it, worked on overblowing and those techniques, but I always had trouble really integrating it into the type of playing that I like to do. It is very difficult without a really well set up instrument. I don't really like to set them up, and I'm not very handy. Anyway, Brendan kind of made me this great instrument that kind of lets me do where I can tongue block, overblow, I can do all that stuff really easily, and I kind of want to retool my playing, being able to that was me sort of fluttering on overblows, which I suppose I wouldn't do, but just the fact that I could do that out of a tongue block easily. Maybe I need to work on it some more, but that would be the thing that if I were to be spending some time practicing, it would be able to do, to just work on that, integrating it. Because I'd always, for me, when I would be playing in a sort of bluesier style, I would sort of have to, in my mind, pop into overblow mode and use a different technique and be very cautious of which harmonica I was on to make sure it was set up right and all that kind of stuff. And I wouldn't have all of my harmonicas set up that way. And I think with this new thing that Brendan's kind of cooked up, that will be that I'll be working on when I have some time.
Oh yeah, that's wonderful. So Andrew Parker also wrote into the chat, how do you feel about playing harmonica in front of a computer? So maybe he's also talking about maybe post-processing harmonica or like some effects.
I haven't really messed with using a laptop live. For certain keyboard gigs, I've run sounds off a laptop and, that kind of thing. And then in the studio, obviously, there's just so many effects and different things that, computers are essential and plugins are essential part of any kind of project that I work on for the most part. It's pretty rare that I work on projects that are, old school live, a natural sounding band captured in one take with no extra layers. It happens, but I would say it's more often. So I consider it a really important part of the instrument and what I do. And I think the harmonica is a great instrument for creating textures. If you holding long tones with a beautiful modulated reverb or these sorts of things we can do on our instrument, we can add a lot of life to sounds. That's, I think, one of the challenges for synthesized music, right, is sometimes it's really cool to have it sound like it's a computer, right? You want it to sound
True.
like it's out of a 19. Yeah, you know, you want it to sound that way. You want it to sound like some 1980s video game stuff on a Game Boy, or you want it to sound, I don't know, in any different way that's very unnatural sounding. But at the same time, there's a lot of music that integrates synthesizers with vocals, acoustic guitars, and all the sort of timeless palette that we've been using, you know. And you know, electric guitar, I think, is commonly done that way. Electric guitar with lots of effects to create gorgeous pads that are still organic, and they have a lot of life to them. And I think our instrument works really well for that kind of stuff. And I'm, yeah, I can't say I've like consciously explored it a lot, but it just naturally happens working with people that we do it, you know. Try different plugins, try different effects pedals. That's been one thing that was really fun working on that harmonica album for me. Is Keith, the engineer, is kind of a wild man about that, has countless pedals, and you know, just messing with it and seeing what we can do. You asked about favorites. There's certain effects that I think, like, they just are good. They're good. They're the real thing, you know. Like when you hear a great old amp that's in good shape, that's just what that sound is, you know. You've heard it on your favorite records. We know that sound. It's a good sound. I think, for example, like a Roland Space Echo or a nice tape delay in general, they just, you know, some of those instruments and effects, or some of those effects can feel like instruments in that, like those two I mentioned, you know, tape delay or Space Echo thing, which is a tape delay, you know, that they bring their own unpredictable character a little bit, you know. They bring some randomness to the equation, and it's just a really high quality sort of sound, you know. Same with like a Leslie speaker, you know, you run something through that, and you actually have that air moving around in the room, and you stereo mic it, and it's you know, it's just a great sound, and it's one that, you know, plugins simulate all this stuff, but in the end, I suppose there's a different physical process that's happening when you're using an actual tape delay or Leslie, you know, things like that.
Of course, yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. Those
what are your
great.
favorite harmonica microphones then? Like in the studio and live?
And I am not too particular. I should be more particular. That bass harmonica mic, I can't really live without. That thing is just so good. Also, I forgot to mention it, but the bass harmonica is it's tuned in octaves, right? So each deck has a low reed and a high reed, and on the Suzuki, the low reeds are both in the middle. So on the bottom deck, the high reed is low, and on the top deck, the high reed is high. So that pickup comes down the middle and gets the low reed a lot more, and it creates a sort of sub kind of tone that it, you know, if you have that thing on and you play in front of a microphone, you have a pretty wide palette. That pickup does not sound like an acoustic bass harmonica louder. It sounds like a different thing, even though it is a microphone and it's not a piezo, something like that. So that microphone I can't do without. I will say, over the years, I've collected a variety of different mics, just, you know, ranging from, you know, $10 up to thousands of dollars. And they all kind of seem to work for different things. I probably, just for practicality, I do have some tube mics, a tube mic that it's probably my fanciest by a wide margin, probably costs 2 or 3 times what anything else costs, but it takes a little while to warm up, like 20 or 30 minutes is what they recommend. So I don't actually really go for that one, except when I'm working with a singer. If I'm working with a singer, I would use that. It sounds amazing. For harmonica, I found a lot of times I've done really big sessions at the best studios, and they'll put an
less than a minute left.
Okay, yeah. They'll use an SM7 or a 441, or perhaps they'll use a Neumann 67 or, some kind of ribbon, and I don't really have a favorite other than live. I do really like the sort of proximity effect of a 58. That's just a nice sound on the harmonica, and it gets a pretty clean signal. Although I do think some of the other, like the Audix and things like that, do something similar, I'm a little hesitant myself to take vintage gear out if I don't have to. So I do have a Lone Wolf microphone I've used. I have Bulletini that I like a lot as well. And, I just like knowing that I'm taking gear.
Okay. Back to the daily stream. Yeah, we ran out of time. I'm very sorry because I joined the Zoom meeting with my phone to just check the audio settings. But I hope this was helpful to you and this was fun. Very interesting. And please make sure to check out Ross and his work. Check out the description box below. You can find all the links to the social media channels, to Instagram, to his website. I'm not sure if I can restart it. I could just message him again, and maybe create a new meeting. But also the connection got worse, right? So yeah, I'm really sorry about that. At least the connection was good on my end. So yeah, I feel like maybe we can just organize a little Twitch harmonica challenge with him and talk to him again. Yeah, that way. Does that make sense? I think so. So thank you everyone for tuning in. Check out the links in the description box below. I was just very amazed about these wonderful harmonica soundscapes on the Bon Iver song. And there's also a great recording, even a music kind of video of Ross playing the bass harmonica on a Kesha song. And now I definitely want to get a bass harmonica. So, yeah. And I'm looking forward to your submissions for the harmonica challenge in April. Our special guest is Igor Kasuya from Brazil. The Latin Harmonica Challenge is going down on April 24th at 6 p.m. Central European summertime. Summertime, that's quite funny. Last night, it actually snowed here in Hamburg, which is crazy considering that it's March 31st. So, yeah. Let's see. Oh yes, he did just message me. Okay, yeah, we'll do this again, maybe on Twitch. So thank you for tuning in. I hope you have a wonderful evening or a wonderful day from wherever you're tuning in. And see you again. Yeah, for the next Hohner Live. I still gotta coordinate the next date. But I feel like we're gonna shoot for April 14th. Bye bye everyone.